Alright, so this is my best in slot Druid build for D4 beta. Basically, I wanted to make something that kind of shows what I think is like the best setup for Druid without trying not to make it gear dependent. So I'm trying to make it like best skills without actual gear, right? Without actual like a bunch of legendaries and that sort of thing, which currently I have legendaries. Some of them are pretty good, like this affix right here. I would say that's a decent legendary, but you don't need that affix to actually make this build work at all. So yeah. So I'll go ahead and I'll pull up the like the skill showcase here. We're going to be starting with Storm Strike. Out of all the generators, it is by far the best. Like, you look at the damage. Okay, like 69 damage, okay, shapeshifts you. You get 69 damage on a werewolf, 9 spirit gain. This generates 15 spirit, does 69 damage, chains up to 3 surrounding enemies, also gives you damage reduction. And then when you spec into these, so I got 1 point in Storm Strike, Enhanced Storm Strike, Fierce Storm Strike right here, which gives vulnerability, which gives a 20% increased damage debuff on those mobs. So you'll be striking for more damage on those mobs, so that'll be great. Here, I've tested all the abilities. A lot of them are lackluster. I'm not really going to get into which ones I think are good and which ones I think are bad in this video. But yeah, essentially if you look at the damage, look at that damage, which I've got this at level 5, and I've got Enhanced Landslide and the Primal Landslide, just for some extra functionality there, and this one actually boosts your damage a little bit, once it actually procs. And then, so like, I think the base damage on this is like 300 and something damage, like 300 to 400 damage, but you look at like Lightning Storm, for instance, like 91 damage per strike and kind of like a decent sized AoE for the longer that you channel it. That's not crazy. You know, like Tornado, 127. Also, the tornadoes half the time will like fire backwards or go left or go right. The RNG is like unreal in that skill. You got like Pulverize, 182 damage to surrounding enemies. That's like kind of okay, but not better than this. And then you got like Shred, which is honestly probably, I think Shred's probably the second best spender that Druid has. It's probably between, second best spender in my opinion is probably between like Shred or Lightning Storm. Yeah, probably between those two. But anyways, for this build you're going to be going Landslide. So Storm Strike is your Spirit Gain ability, gives you kind of a damage reduction buff and a vulnerability debuff there. And then you can kind of dump all of it with Landslide to like nuke down some elites or whatever that you need to spike down a little bit. And then for defenses, we got actually what I'm running here in this build. So I actually have, I'll say you need to run Bloodhowl. Like, this is really good. It's just like a 15-second heal every time that it's up. And then you could spec into it. You get the reduced cooldown per kill, which will let you basically spam it more often. You can get more CDR in your gear to kind of let you spam the heal there. And obviously every point in it gives you more healing. So it's actually, I'd say this is overall the best defensive ability. It's probably close to Earthen Bulwark, to be honest. But I think this is, in general, better. Just because you can use it. You pretty much use this skill way more often than Earthen Bulwark. Because you kind of got to be like in the midst of combat. You kind of don't want to waste this skill. If you have some health that's like down a little bit, you just pop it, you're back to full health, and GG. And this, so actually this one, I was running this for a bit. Bloodhowl generates 20 spirit. This one's not bad, but I think this one is probably better because you can just use Bloodhowl, use your Storm Strike a little bit, get the spirit, then dump all your spirit with Landslide here, and yeah. And for this build, actually, I've got Bloodhowl on the bar. I got Bloodhowl and Earthen Bulwark. technically, I was gonna say like, I'll go ahead and say that this is a flex slot in the build. Like you can take this out, and like you can run Cataclysm, you can run Trample down here. You don't have to run the Earthen Bulwark. I do highly recommend running Bloodhowl though. You need at least one defensive skill in my opinion. But yeah, this is basically a flex slot in this build. If you don't like Earthen Bulwark, take it out. Run like Trample. I think if you're in like a dungeon that's enclosed, Trample is a strong skill. I really think that it's a good skill in dungeons. Open world, Trample's kind of garbage because you're just gonna go into a werebear. You're gonna knock all the enemies away, which is gonna like derive from like Hurricane and Ravens, which you want them to kind of be balled up. So only run that in dungeons pretty much, or maybe if you're in a zone. All the beta zones aren't really that closed, so I don't recommend it in open world. I'll just go ahead and say that. So basically, next skill, of course, we're running. I'll go ahead and talk about Ravens. Honestly, the passive is just like some extra. It's like a cherry on top, right? The active is the whole milkshake, for lack of a better term. So, Ravens, you basically pop it. It's almost like a more concentrated Hurricane in a way that kind of sits in one place. Like you can move around, that little swirl of Ravens will sit on the ground, just keep damaging what's in there. Also got 1 point enhanced Raven just to give some extra crit strike chance against those mobs. One more thing I want to say in this build is I'm running 3 points in Predatory Instinct to also increase my crit strike chance. Most of your skills are going to be close range unless you're running like Lightning Storm or something like that. So I think this is actually a really strong node for Druid. It's probably one of the best passives in my opinion. So, yeah. And, of course, you got Hurricane. I've got Hurricane maxed out in this build. Got a point in Enhanced Hurricane. The slow is a little nice. The reduced damage is actually really nice for survivability. You don't have to run these nodes. These are kind of like just like flavor passes to give your skill a little bit more panache, I suppose, for lack of a better term there. But the slow is kind of nice if you need to like move forward or catch up to a mob or something that's already being damaged by the Hurricane. Kind of keeps them a little bit away from you with the slow too. And the 20% less damage is just good damage mitigation, so that's not bad. I was really close into like speccing into Endless Tempest, like putting like 3 points in that, but I think 15% duration for 3 points. I think it's better just to juice the damage on Hurricane, honestly. I haven't done the math on that, but I think juicing the damage is just better. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much the whole build. You can run Earthen Bulwark, Cataclysm, or Trample in the flex slot. Those are the 3 skills that I recommend in the build. Outside of that, I don't know what else you would run. I've tested like Grizzly Rage. Lacerate's alright. You can do that if you just want to do like a damage nuke. I wouldn't recommend... I don't think Petrify's that great. Cataclysm's good if there's a ton of mobs. But most of the time, like, I think... So, like, Cataclysm's good in, like, an event. Or maybe a stronghold. But outside that, I don't really recommend it. So in general, I'd say just use Earthen Bulwark. If you just want to go through and smash mobs, just run Cataclysm. Yeah, I don't think they're... You can also do like a Vine Creeper, although I don't... Poison's just a little additive. Right now, to keep it 100p, I think Druid's a little underpowered in the beta. It's an alright class, but it needs some changes for sure. Some of the abilities like Tornado, you know, like, It does decent, it does okay damage. The problem is how much RNG is in the skill and that kind of thing, like Pulverize. Pulverize is actually good AoE, it just doesn't do enough damage. So yeah. I'll show a little bit of action of it, of the build. So let me just come over here and we'll kind of just play a little bit. If I can find some mobs, there should be some up here. Here's like 2 mobs, we'll just group them up a little bit. You just go bam, you'll landslide, storm strike, bam, easy. Easy peasy. Really simple build. You just like go through. I wish I had like an event spawn or something that I could just go in and smash the whole event to kind of like showcase the build. But either way, that pretty much like that's a pretty solid like quick rundown of the build. I might do like a shape-shifting spec build, like a more shape-shifting type of thing. I think like a shapeshifter with Hurricane in it could be okay. I don't know if it'll be best in slot. Like, definitely these 2 skills are best in slot for their category. And I think the Bloodhowl's best in slot, unless you have legendaries that buff your other armor skills. Hurricane's best in slot too, I think. So yeah. Yeah, this is pretty much the build. Thanks for watching, and I'll probably put like a build calculator link in the description. So yeah, have a good one. Peace.